Hello and welcome to this video. We're going to discuss PoE 2 and the fact that it's got huge potential, but it also has huge risk at becoming a game that would be categorized like Diablo 2. Now, before anything, listen to what I say and then react to what I say. Now, Diablo 2, I'm sure most people know Diablo 2, but just in general, it's very old, but still has a very good, very loyal community, still producing fresh content at least every week, probably every day for some content creators. Now, PoE 2 is similar in how they've approached it because the maps are huge, just like Diablo 2. The synergies between skills and everything, PoE 2 has added that sort of, you have to use this to do damage with that, which is good. It means that you got to think more about your setup to your finish and then possibly have a whole different skill for clearing. Diablo 2 also has synergies through their skills, but it's pretty much their passive tree. Now, the problem with Diablo 2 is that it's a niche community that a lot of people like it or don't like it. It's one or the other. PoE 2 seems to be going down that road. People either like Diablo PoE 2 or they want it to be more like either PoE 1 or different games. The result of it for Diablo 2 was that it pretty much ran its course as long as Blizzard wanted to, but they weren't getting the market they wanted, so then they ended up making one of the worst games Diablo has ever made in Diablo 3, just to attract the younger crowd, the more flashy sort of, oh look, thanks, doing bright colors and everything. And Diablo 2 pretty much died in a mainstream sense, but it still has its core community. PoE 2 has the potential to go down that road as well, because depending on how they progress with the early access and the characters and then finish off the acts and then whatever endgame they got, could end up being one of those games where a group of people play and then they make content on PoE 1 still, because obviously a big base will be still over there, depending on how GGG treats PoE 1. PoE 1 could just fall in the background and just have half-hearted updates compared to PoE 2, and it could end up being that PoE 2 gets all the love, which then will make people cranky at PoE 2, even though it's not PoE 2's fault. Now, the good things about Diablo 2 is the campaign is pretty much the entire game. You have normal, nightmare, hell difficulties, and the campaign, people actually spend hours in farming certain points to get resources that they can use for a later date. Apart from just farming a certain area or a certain cave or something in PoE 2 just to get through the campaign a little easier, PoE 2 has big areas, bosses all the time, no point really doing them. It's pretty much, oh look, content, heaps of content, but no real point to doing it. Obviously they can change it up, do everything, it's still early access, but the way they did PoE 1 seems to be PoE 2, where you reach maps or waystones, and then you start getting into content, start getting into drops, start getting into anything worthwhile, and the campaign is just a hassle, just a chore you got to do. And people want to run through as quick as possible, don't want to spend any more time than they have to. If we have a look, now pretend Act 1, 2, 3 Cruel is 5, 6, 4, 5, 6. In Diablo 2, let's say Act 3. It's in Act 1, but let's just go with this. So you'd get to about Act 3, and you'd have something to do. You'd farm up in effort to be able to do the next 3 acts and Endgame with the things you are farming. Pretty much, as it stands, you're running through Act 1, 2, 3. You get through Act 3. You might rerun where's the boss? Wherever the boss is, I think he's in the other zone. The Agorot and all that can't be seen right now. But you pretty much run through. You might rerun a boss here or there, depending on your build. If you've got a big tanky build that can either outlast the DeLorean, whatever the dude's name is, you might farm him and try to get some drops, try to get some currency and all that, just so you can buy stuff off trade, which I don't like the fact that it seems like that's how it's set up, because I'm still running a crossbow. If I bring up this, a level 38 crossbow I got in Act 2. I've been through at least 50 crossbows and have not found an upgrade yet. I'm up to maps and I can't get the thing to drop. I would have an upgrade if I was in PoE 1, because I just craft the percent fizz on it, and then once I get a good fizz roll, adds whatever fizz damage, I would then just craft the percent fizz and then would have an upgrade. But as it stands, I have to hope that it rolls percent fizz damage as one of the first 2 modifiers, like it did on this one, which I exalted out. I did spend 3 exalting this out just to get an upgrade. Now, it would be awesome if they didn't necessarily level gate most of the tiers. Like the top tiers, fine. The top uniques, fine. But pretty much anywhere in the campaign, it would be awesome if you could drop something that you would then use end game and then only upgrade to min-max your build. Diablo 2, you can get items and gear that once you just have that base, you put that base away, and then through their rune system you create words and all that, and then create something awesome. But it'll be awesome if, since they're going down that big maps whole time in campaign, they actually made a reason to be in campaign like Diablo 2. So around Act 3 and then Act 6, whatever that turns out to be, but obviously at the moment we have Act 1, 2, 3 repeated. But around Act 3 you get to a boss. It doesn't have to be an easy boss, but it's a doable boss for the campaign. But it drops, even if on a small scale, you can get something that is a tier, I think there's like 9 tiers, and so a tier 7 drop from like an Act 3 boss that pretty much your whole campaign's done with your weapon. Or if a piece of armor or something drops and it's got like a T7 resistance double rolled, and pretty much your campaign's done with resistances. You're just min-maxing the rest of your gear for campaign before you turn into your endgame. Diablo 2, I believe, does a lot better campaign, because that pretty much is the endgame, running through hell, and then there's some other endgame content things, but The main of it is facing all the bosses in hell to get the uniques, get the things to get your build going. Which we have endgame bosses, pinnacle bosses for that, which is fair enough. But I think a lot of people would not gripe about the campaign as much as well if there was a reason to do the campaign. They added some of this stuff, like gives you 2 passive points and all that. PoE 1's got that in a less complicated way. Like getting all this stuff, you got to know when you get there, is it worth it? Obviously this plus thing helps a lot. But there's bosses that don't have the actual plus to it, that get you either jewels, get you lesser jeweler orbs, so you can get your 4-link. It drops skill gems, so if you're missing some skill gems, not being able to pick them up, or supports, things like that. If they just stop trying to gate power through, no, you must be area level 70, I think most stuff 77 and higher is generally where that tiers start coming in, where once you get that higher tier bit, you're all good. Which, if you're new, which it's meant to be a new player's game, I don't really see that. It's still, the ones that are actually having the most success are the PoE 1 players, not the new players. The new players find it interesting and fun and interactive because it's new. They're farming up, doing everything. Oh, what's over here, what's over there? But it'll get boring real quick. And I don't mean it takes so long getting through a campaign. I don't mind that if there's reasons. Pretty much the whole point of the campaign at the moment, if we go to we're in Act 1, is defeat this boss. Run through until you reach this boss, get your spirit, or if your build's not strong enough, skip that, wait until you're in Act 2, come back, beat it up. Do the crow bell, get the loot, and then head on through to a boss that's not even on the map. It might be on the next map. This guy, get your 20 life, and then get the boss, go to Act 2. That is a lot of the campaign, just in Act 1, that is pointless. Because yes, you might get a drop, might get this, might get that, but for the most part, people are going to just skip it to get to Act 2, go through Act 2, getting stuff, and then get to Act 3. There's a lot less point to Act 2 than Act 3. But pretty much they come and get into the Venom Crypts. This is where you might try to get some gear, some currency and stuff. Rerun that a few times. Depending on your movement speed, depends on obviously how bored you get, how quickly. And then you run through and get the Bog Witch if you can beat the Bog Witch, or come back after you've done the campaign for the Act 3, go to Act 4, come back, and then we start it all over again. But obviously we're going to have Act 4, 5, 6 with different map and all that. And then you get to the end game, where pretty much it's the ecosystem of Last Epoch more than I would have thought it was. The general principle of expanding out was what I thought was going to be the max of the reference to Last Epoch, but a lot of the maps, there's not really any point to them except for they connect things, and then you keep going out and try to get towers to see more areas. And then if you come across something with, say you want ritual, you do these, you empower the towers, and then your ritual's awesome. On this one, actually getting the expedition would actually be awesome, empowering them with the towers. But yeah, so there's a lot more they're obviously going to do, and they can do. But I think they need to focus more on the campaign than the end game. Because yes, people will complain about the end game, people will cry, whinge, whatever. But the campaign has been extended hour-wise for so long that it needs to have a point. Diablo 2 should be their reference point of time spent in campaign. People will go to the tower and take out the tower lady and spend an hour, 2 hours trying to get rune drops. There should be something through the campaign at, like, say, Act 3. Maybe after you got your first ascendancy, you got your power together. In Act 3, you go in. If you choose to, you can just run on through to Act 4. But if you want to, you stay. You try to get some gear. And the gear that drops can actually make you go all the way to 6 or endgame and not be level capped to, oh, you're only allowed whatever tier. As you can see, I got half decent rolls for most of them for a Act 2 weapon. It's actually carried me through to Act 5. It started to fall off, and obviously I'm doing all I can in maps to actually keep it going and try to get the damage up without the damage numbers. So I think Path of Exile 2, the way it's going, the campaign will be long, pointless, a little bit of power gain, and then depending on what they add as a third ancestry trial thing, that might be worth doing over the second, third Sanctum and Ultimatum. But at the moment, it's a chore. There's not really any point doing it, except for you have to get to the other side. You do the passive stuff just like PoE 1 to get that power gain or to get passives. But there is no point to... They made it harder, didn't give the rewards. They made it longer, without any point. They made you look all over the maps for a door. Nothing else. Like, there needs to be a point, and PoE 1 as an example, they won't add that. I think it would have to take a massive amount of some of the bigger content creators forcing their hand and pretty much creating their own little media mix to actually force GGG to add it in, because I don't think, based on what they've done in PoE 1, how they've done Act 1, 2, 3, I don't think you're going to get a point. The whole point of this is to pick a certain type of content you want to do and farm that. But it's not necessarily all that easy. You're running around trying to get to the bosses, and like, mapping doesn't really have a point yet. At least with the Atlas completion and stuff, you saw the Atlas, you completed it as you went, and you felt like you were completing stuff. This, it just looks like, oh, should I go in a straight line? Should I go left? Should I go right? There's not that sense of accomplishment compared to running a PoE 1 Atlas. That just sense of accomplishment. The same principles there, but the sense of accomplishment ain't there, in my opinion. So hopefully they add some sort of way that you feel like you're accomplishing something. But yeah, Diablo 2 is still going strong because there is a point to running the campaign / endgame. And during the campaign, people are engaged throughout the campaign and are willing to spend hours along the way to get endgame power. Not just the next act, not just the next 2 acts, endgame power. So hopefully they don't go the way of Diablo 2, and in 10 years, PoE 2 is going to just be another game that people play, but they play PoE 1 or whatever else they bring out if the numbers drop. I would say in 10-15 years, more than likely, someone else will probably step in, and sort of start moving the way. If the numbers are down, I wouldn't be surprised if they went the way of Activision, Blizzard, all that, and it started going towards the more younger market, trying to get more either battle pass type money or getting more like rubbish MTXs that actually they're getting paid to put in type thing. Hopefully not, but it is highly possible in this day and age that a game goes that way just to make ends meet. But let me know what you think, and I know putting Diablo 2 and PoE 2 in the same sentence will trigger people, but it's got very big similarities on the setup of the world and how you can play it, and what PoE 2 is missing at the moment, in my opinion, is a point to the campaign other than just get from A to B and get into Endgame. The campaign should be more meaningful. They've got all these bosses, they are virtually meaningless. They got all these big maps, virtually meaningless. They cap you by level to each power level. There is no way to get ahead by grinding, no way to get ahead by doing anything other than grinding to get currency and going and buying it off someone who's already got to endgame and got the stuff for you. But yes, that's the video. Hit all those buttons and let me know what you think, and goodbye.